New shirt, new lighting, but same quality content. So in this lesson, we're going to talk about auto layout. I'm going to show you how all of those different tools and techniques that you can use as part of auto layout can really make your life so much easier, and it can really make your day-to-day in Figma and building out designs that much more of a pleasure. I'll give you a quick show over now of what we're going to be able to build by the time we finish teaching you those skills. So here in Figma, we have a trivial example of a website for selling microwaves. As I grow and shrink this, you can see how everything responds to the size. And that's something we'll explore together. If this seems daunting, don't worry. We'll go through it step by step, and you'll be amazed at how quickly you can put together something just like this yourself. Cool. So first we're going to cover horizontal and vertical auto layout and give you a little bit of a feel for how those things work together. So what I like to start with is these navbar and the footer components, and I'll show you how those fit together. First, let's take the top navbar. Let's take a copy of that, and let me destruct it first. So if I ungroup, and you can see that's kind of hard to see. If I change this to a black color temporarily, we can see over here we've got a logo, and then we've got a frame of these different things. So if I ungroup it, you'll probably start with something like this. Get a group of items, and you'll get something else you might want to put on the side. If I highlight these, and then I turn it into a frame, so that's Command Option G. Two ways you can then add auto layout to here is first is the auto layout. You can just simply click here, or the shortcut I like to use is Shift A, and that automatically applies auto layout. So you can see here it'll set some sort of horizontal padding, whatever is closest, and split them out evenly. You can adjust that yourself to whatever you'd like, and this sets the default of the horizontal. If I, for example, take 3 copies of this and make them roughly vertical and do the same thing, you don't need to group it first. You can simply press Shift A, and that'll take you straight into adding auto layout. And Figma will work out that everything should be stacked vertically and figure out the rough spacing that should be there. Let's turn this original one and start nesting it. So this is really quite important. So we covered nesting frames, and that's really important to make these things happen. So here I've got this frame on the left, so these are my menu items. Oops, let's undo that. Let's call that menu items. And it's this one, it's just chuck wired white because I'm using a instance of a component. And if I then group these together and press Shift A again, you'll see that I've added auto layout, and it's automatically done this. So one thing you'll want to do to achieve the actual navbar effect is actually to ignore the spacing between, and let's give it a fill just to make it easier to see. Let's do something like this, just so we can differentiate it. And the first thing that you'll come across really quickly is the spacing. So we'll do this and this. It's 12 and 12, so that's the left and right. And one thing you'll notice is that as I do this, it doesn't respond. But what we'd want it to do is change the spacing mode. So if I undo that and go over here into the 3 dots, there's this thing called packed and space between. So the default is packed, and you can set how much spacing there should be between each of the items in that particular frame. But if I do space between, now between these 2 items in this frame, as I grow and shrink it, it'll always stick to the right. So if I adjust that to make it look a little bit more natural, and I'll reveal the structure of what's in here. So for creating a navbar, we've got the menu items themselves nested inside with its own horizontal layout. We've got the logo on the right. For this main navbar, it's got its own auto layout, but we've changed the spacing and given it a fill. And what we've done is adjust the spacing mode in order to get this responsivity. So that's one really simple example that you can do, and working through it step by step to start exploring how the horizontal works, the vertical works, and also some of the things like the spacing, which we'll go into a little bit more detail in one of the next lessons. The only last thing to add is that for the vertical layouts, it's very much the same thing, but things just flow in a different direction. So you can see here, if I hover over the spacing, vertical spacing between the items, when I flip between horizontal and vertical, looking at the footer, you can see that each of these items have the exact same spacing between themselves.